Hey, how's it going? Jason here, and in this episode we're going to be talking about this big olive bonsai I have right behind me. So I got this tree sort of recently, and the tree is kind of out of shape. Basically, we've got a lot of branches growing everywhere, even from the base right here. That's one of the cool things about olives is that they will continue to grow shoots even from the base. I mean, you can look how big this base is right there, and you still got shoots coming out of it. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of some of these down here, and these are basically new shoots that have come out recently that really are not needed anymore. These are actually just going to suck energy away from the branches at the top, so I can go ahead and cut these. All right, so I put this on a turntable really quick, just so I can spin it a little bit easier. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to attack this pad right here. We're going to eliminate all the branches that have died back and try to wire this back into shape and then push it back. So I got this bottom branch wired. I'm going to arrange it just a little bit. I still need to trim it back. You can still see it's really coming out too far, and it's really just a couple spindly branches coming out. So now I'm going to move to this side. I'm going to wire these ones down and set a pad layer over here, and then just kind of work myself up. So this is the branches I'm going to work on right now. So I'm just going to wire them down and try to create some type of pad layer right here, and probably join it with this guy over here. So I'll join it with this one right here, so that'll kind of come together as one. And just remember the trick is, if you go bend the branch, just bring it over to where you want it. Oh, problem is that my turntable is moving. So let me hold the tree. Bring the branch to where you want it, and then apply the wire on it as you're bending the branch over. Okay. And you don't need to go all the way down, because you just need to get that the thickest part of that branch to move it. All right, so I'm basically going to continue to work on this. I've got that main branch wired over. I've got some secondaries that just need to be brought down, so I'm going to do that. Now you can kind of see this is going out pretty far, all the way out to here. So this one will get cut back, but I'm just going to wire some down. So I'm applying this little trick on two of these branches. So I'll show you what it is. Okay, so basically, a lot of times you'll have a branch that's grown like this. It's basically, so here's the primary branch of my arm, and you've got two branches that are sticking, one going up, one going down. What you do is you just wire one of those, and you wire it this way. So if it's coming out this way, if it's coming like this, you can wire this one down, and it'll basically turn this one up, and then you got two side branches or two branches coming out on the flat side of the pad, just like that. So if you got something like this, put some wire on it, turn it down, and then now you've got two branches coming off. Perfect for a pad. And I did that on two branches, one right here, this one right here, which was originally like this. Then I turned it down this way. And on the opposite end, it's the same exact thing. This one over here was up like this, and then I turned it flat. So that's actually with one piece of wire, I was able to use it on two branches. And since when I flip it like this, I don't actually have to wire the second one because it's already flipping the other one flat as well. So with one wire, I'm able to basically wire four branches. Let me get this out of the way, and this one here. I'm basically able to wire this one 1, 2, 3, 4 with one wire. Now they're all going flat. So that's a nice little trick. Okay, and I can tell that these are growing out really far. So I'm going to cut some back just a little bit for now. I'm going to go and cut a little bit more. This one's going straight up, this one, so I'm going to cut that back. Try to promote some growth growing up and kind of create a little bit of a top on this section to fill in this area so it kind of covers this branch right here. Same thing with this one, but this one I can actually use as a side one. Let me see if I need it though. Doesn't look like I do, so I'm going to cut that one back. Just like that. And then this one I can tell it's growing out from the back here, which I don't like. This one right here, it's growing all the way from the inside here, all the way close to the trunk, so I don't need that. I'm going to get rid of it. But this one's okay. I like this one. Okay. So I'm going to continue wiring this one. I got those down. I can tell this one's coming out too far, so I'm going to trim that back. Okay. And this one. Okay. So I'm gonna wire this guy right here into this spot just to make it look a little bit more full. I'm gonna take a small wire and do that one really quick. And these branches are pretty flexible, so you don't need to really put heavy wire on this. It's better to try to use the lighter wire so you don't see it as much, if you can. And just like that, you can kind of see that sitting flat now, right there. Right here, just this pad alone is sitting flat. Now I'll go in with the shears later and trim some back just to get this in some nice order. And then after that, it'll basically just be maintaining this pad just with some shears. So the camera angle was like this a second ago. So basically, let me rotate it back this way, and you can kind of see that this one is wired down now. You can see these pad layers or these branches are wired down. And the same is happening on the opposite side. All those were wired down. It's still not trimmed back yet, but it's all brought down so that we can go ahead and trim. Let me get this one now though. So we can go and trim at the end. Okay, so now we'll continue working myself up. So we'll go back on this side. We'll do this branch right here. And over here we've got some problems. We had some branches that were lost right here. Some dead branches, so we'll go cut those off and hopefully replace it with some of these guys right here so that this will start looking a little nicer next season. So this is the section I'm going to work on right now, this one. I did this one already, this bottom one, so now I'm working on the second layer, and I'm just going to wire some of these out over it to create that pad layer. So right around here, I'm just wiring all the branches, trying to get all the primaries, get all the secondaries, and then arranging them just a little bit. And there's multiple branches coming off from the same area, so what I'm doing is I'm wiring them and then joining them together to create one single pad. So some of the branches died back, so what I did was I used some of the new growth that had grown pretty long, and I'm wiring them all the way down and then arranging them to replace the branches that have died off. I was getting late, so I came back the next day. Continue working on the same pad layer. And the lower branches, you tend to have more branches to wire, more to work with, so these lower ones tend to take a little bit longer. Once you head toward the apex, you're going to have a little bit less, so it's going to go a little bit faster once you reach the top. And there's a lot of secondaries, so I'm just repeating the process over and over again. Cutting back branches, wiring the ones I need, arranging them just down into its general position. And I'm slowly just working up the tree, so now I've moved on to the pad layer above the middle one, so I'm just slowly approaching the apex, just wiring as I go. And here you can see that most of the branches are sticking straight up, so I'm wiring them down and putting them to the side and arranging them so that they're being used as to fill in the pad as opposed to just sticking up. You can cut them as well, but if you're able to move the branch down and use it as a side branch or use them to fill in that pad layer, it's easier to do that. And this part was interesting because there was a really thick branch that was coming off at an angle, and it was perfect to use as another back branch about midway through. So what I did was I put some thicker wire on it and wired it down, and then wired some secondaries as well. But since it was so long, I had to push it back just to keep it in proportion to the rest of the tree. So moving on to the apex was interesting because since the main apex had died back, I had to choose some of the branches to fill its spot. So here I am, I'm just wiring some of the longer branches, the overgrown branches, which I'm going to eventually use them and to put them in position to replace that old apex. And then you'll notice also that I'm not cutting back too much on these. I'm wiring them while they're still long so that I can put them into the position, because I might have to put a lot of turns into them just to make sure that they're filling in the the apex really well. It's really bare. It was really bare up there. So if you cut it too soon, you might end up not being able to cover the area that you're looking to fill. So here's a closer look at the apex. You can see that the two branches had died back right there, but I've got this one longer branch up in the middle, and it's got some secondaries on it. So I've got to figure out how to use this one single branch to fill in this whole apex and to replace all those dead branches. So what I did was I left that alone for now and went to tackle the rest of these branches coming off of the apex. And essentially what I'm doing is I'm just wiring them and then bringing them down across the top just to cover empty spaces. And all I'm doing is just going around the top of the tree and then rotating the tree as I move to new branches to wire down. So here I'm just finishing up the last remaining branches that are coming off the top. And all these branches were the new growth that were just overgrown. And the nice thing about working with these overgrown branches is that they have time to lignify, but they're also still flexible enough to bring down and manipulate to exactly where you want them, which makes them great for kind of creating new branches or new placements and filling in spots that need to be ramified. And then they're long enough too that you can actually get them to fill spots. When they're too short, sometimes it's hard to actually move them into the spots that need to be filled. So here I'm just finishing the last remaining one before moving to the most important branch, or my key branch in this tree. And that key branch is this one. It is the one branch that I basically need to use to complete the apex. And that's why I'm taking a little bit of extra care on it. But I'm basically wiring the primary branch, and then also I'm going to do the secondaries so I can use that to blend in the entire apex and fill in the whole top of the tree. So here's my favorite part. Basically everything is wired, and I'm just looking at the entirety of the tree and just using my shears to clip parts that are too long or too full, maybe they're too heavy. Also, I use this opportunity to finish wiring a few stragglers that just need to be put in the right spot. But for the most part, this process is just fine-tuning. It's the easiest, but it's the most fun. The only problem is that you've got to finish wiring the tree before you get to this. So this process here is a little less methodical. At this point, I'm basically just looking at the tree, taking a step back once in a while to look for my triangles, and then I'm just attacking spots on the tree that need attention. And this is also the point in the design process that you discover that one little branch that always needs to be wired. Alright, so I just finished wiring this whole tree, and I think it came out pretty nice. Originally the tree had some branches that died back. When I acquired it, it had some branches that had died back, and essentially what I did was I just let it grow a little bit wild for a little bit, and then I replaced those branches that died back with new branches, and then put them in the spots that they used to be where the other branches were. And I think it worked out pretty well. I had a section here that had a lot of dead branches, and I basically pulled one from the top of there and brought it over here. And the same thing on this side, on the back, I filled in this area right here with some long branches that were growing straight up. I basically brought them down and replaced the old one. So essentially, with those new branches, those will start to ramify, and then those will develop and they'll basically replace the one that's gone. One thing I did keep was a couple branches like here. This one's a dead branch here. There's another one inside here. So I decided to keep some of those branches just to show the history of what this tree went through and sort of its stages. You know, so originally it had some nice branches that were here. The apex was fuller. It was directly in the center here. You can see that there's some dead branches here, but over time those ones died back, and now they've been replaced with new branches, new growth that came off of the apex, and I basically swung them down. The most important branch was this key branch I had right here at the top, which I took a lot of time on, and that one essentially was the one branch that I used to create the entire new apex for this tree. So I went and got one of the trees I had from a previous video, this little one right here. You can see that in comparison to this tree. This one's much older, but you know, I received some comments saying I killed this tree, and I didn't. It's actually growing really nicely, and it's got new branches in spots that exactly where I was hoping for. So this one, I'm going to do a follow-up on this one later, but essentially it's the same principles that you're applying to a little 1 gallon tree like this, so you're applying to something big like this. The growth habits are going to be the same. It's just you're working with older material that's obviously much thicker, but the principles of how the olive grows and your pruning stays the same. So that's what makes working on trees like this, you know, a little smaller one like this one, great practice, because if you're able to style a tree like this, then when you start moving up to bigger material, I mean, maybe not as big as this, but bigger material, you can apply the same concepts and you'll be able to create something like this. All right, so hopefully you guys like how the tree turned out. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, thanks for watching.